read those?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
Hi, my friends. How are you?
Hi.
I've been trying to figure out, you know how podcasts have those opening, like, how you doing tonight, Erin? Nothing really works. I haven't done the right one.
The Instagram live thing is weird, though, because people, like, trickle in at different times.
I know,
so we're, like, saying hi to no one right now.
That's fine. It'll be all right. So it might be a Thursday, and we might be having drinks in the middle of the... Hello.
Literally.
Hi,
Hi.
Summer. Love you, my friend. But honestly, it's been the kind of week that I wanted to drink in the middle of the day.
We're adults, we can.
We can. We are
We
legal.
want.
This is not going to put us over the edge, so it'll be fine. But Erin has these adorable cups that say the drinker and the sipper, and I think that that's very funny.
I'm backwards for you guys, but...
So, I had some questions sent to me for potential blog posts that are better suited to be more Instagram Live questions, like we did last time. And we happen to miss February because being an adult sucks.
February's short.
February... It's so
There's
short.
not such time to get things done.
I needed those additional, 4 days.
Yeah.
No, that would be 32.
3.
So 3 days, but it would have helped. So here we are. We're doing this again. We're going to be better about it. And you can just blame me, to be honest.
We're going to try to keep it also to an hour so we don't get kicked off like we did last time.
I was thinking maybe we could do 30 segments, so they might save this time. I have a new phone. We're going to find out.
We'll see what happens, honestly.
There's lots of planning involved. So then we have a topic or two of our own that we were going to cover, if we get the time to.
Yes.
If it's of any interest to anyone,
Yeah.
really. So what's the first on the list? Can you read my handwriting?
I can, actually.
Oh, it's improved since we worked together.
Years of practice. So, we're going to start with the questions that you guys had for us.
Please.
So, first up, how often do we get to ride together?
Not nearly enough.
Not
Never.
very often. Yeah, not really, because we don't have... Bailey used to have her horses with my horses,
Which was great.
and then we rode together pretty regularly. But now sometimes I'll go ride Joy, but then Bailey's not riding because I'm riding Joy.
So I'm on the ground just shouting,
yeah.
usually, or chasing Posey around.
Yeah, so...
I was thinking we should go do trail riding over spring break, because I think I'm going to take a couple of days off of work. Probably don't need me. And so we should do something fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had a plan to go for a trail ride. There's a park that we can take horses to close-ish to us. So we've had that plan for 2 months.
It'll
But
happen.
again, it happens.
Also, something you don't know, Texas is really big. And Erin and I live close together, and by close together, I mean
It still takes
30 to
35
45
minutes,
minutes if you're in a trailer. So it's still a commitment for the day. But we'll do better. It would be fun to take the girls out on the park.
Yeah.
We can just we can bring Houdini over, and he can hang out with Apple and make
can
Apple pee himself
babysit.
again.
They can babysit each other.
Yes, that'll be good. Another question was, what got us into riding, specifically when we were tiny little infants?
Yeah, so for me, I have a cousin who, my mom's niece actually, who has been riding forever, and she used to take me out to the barn and put me on her old thoroughbred and just pony ride around. And she got me a gift certificate for a lesson with her trainer when I was 8, I want to say, for Christmas. And I started taking lessons and never stopped, still riding with the same trainer, so.
Diane's a good one. Got to keep her around. My grandma made the mistake of getting me a book of breeds from Costco.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know what a Costco is, but it's like a big superstore, right? If you don't have a Costco.
A wholesale
It's
place.
wholesale. And I had this book, and I made my parents read it to me at night. So instead of reading me storybooks, they were reading me the breed descriptions of Percherons.
Mm-hmm.
And I by the time I had it memorized, I was 3.5 years old, and they got me a gift certificate to take a pony ride lesson when they still had the pony place down by the zoo.
Yeah.
And then
Breckenridge.
Yeah, good old Breckenridge. And then I think I started taking once a week lessons from there. And it never stopped.
Yeah.
It just didn't end.
Yeah.
And here we are, as adults with our own houses, with our own horses.
Yeah.
And still paying money for other people to yell at us.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. And at the barn, we both used to ride at the same barn, and we met at summer camp there.
It was either in
8 and 6, I think.
It's either 4 and 6, 5 and 7. There's 2 years.
Sometime we were very small.
Very small. I think that was the one time that I've ever been smaller than you. It lasted for about 6 months.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but the frozen Butterfingers were the best. But that's where Erin met her pony, Houdini, was with that trainer. And then I progressively moved to a different city where I had a trainer and a spotted pony, and here we are. So,
What can I do?
I know. I think the book was You remember when they used to do those like Discovery Planet things? They're like 30 minutes long. You could get them from the library. It was like that book.
Yeah.
It was the
The
best.
book that accompanied.
I still have a copy of it. My parents have my original copy. The binding's fallen off.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you're not allowed to touch it.
not allowed to touch it. They bought a new one.
Good.
Just in case I need to know where Percherons come
Some
from.
reference material. Okay. Next, what is something that we both agree needs fixing in the equestrian world or culture?
I have lots of thoughts, but I'm going to let you go
No,
first.
please go first.
I would love to say it being a financially exclusive sport. I would love to say that. In my heart of hearts, I feel that way. I know that it's not feasible. Hello.
This is Lucy.
She's the best.
Again.
Oh, she burped in my face again.
Yeah.
She did that last time
She
too.
does.
I think that that would be really rough. I think that dressage entries should be a lot more streamlined. Because I've heard you get very angry at me a couple of times, even though I have no control over what's going on. I would like for...
I just don't know how it's just been agreed upon as a group that this is how we should do it, because it makes no sense to me.
It's getting better, to some extent. I wish that thoroughbreds were more accepted in the dressage world. I think that that needs to change, especially because last time I checked at USDA finals, I think there were 5 competing in the upper levels. Not just like, oh, she burped in my face again and then licked me.
Okay, Lucy.
Not just training level, like one was up in, I think, an I1 or 2.
Nice.
And I have an issue with how America has their young rider system set up. But that's a personal problem, I think.
Yeah. I agree. It's hard, the financial aspect of it, because it is a business, so...
No, that's the whole thing, is like, that's why in my heart I want it to be more inclusive, but it's just so hard to... It is a business. They have to make money. The FEI has to make money.
And not even talking about like luxury brands or anything, but just like the entry fees to a horse show. Like the people running the horse show have to be able to make a living off of it, or they can't do it. And
the club has to.
And then we can't have shows.
Right,
So.
and then the vets have to make a living. They make plenty of a living off of us. But in order to go to a show, you have to have vet. Now you see Grace Southwestern had breakouts, so now we have to have vet certificates for all of that. So in my heart, I would love it to be more accessible. However, ADA has started doing an intro packet. So I think at the schooling shows, it might be at rated shows where young riders, I believe in the 12 and under division, maybe the 13 and over, can do intro level classes, and it includes the price of the stall, shavings, intro A and B both days, and maybe both days, I don't remember, and no membership fees, like all kind of packaged together. And I think that it would be better if we moved towards something
That's
like
not. The USEA used to have something similar with beginner novice. You didn't have to be a USEA member, I believe. I think they have, because it was meant to be like kind of an introduction to the sport, but it's, the courses are bigger and more technical now than they used to be, and so they're changing that, so you do have to be a member, but they still have like the unrecognized divisions, like the starter,
Green is grass,
Goldilocks, all that stuff.
I would do Goldilocks, like little poles on the ground, trot Joey around. We'd kick ass in the dressage and then just like hop over a pole. It'd be fun.
Oh
yeah. You have any others, or am I just taking over hogging that spotlight?
Yeah, I mean, I wish there were kind of overall, not specifically about thoroughbreds, just less stereotypes about breeds, because
oh my god, I have so many. By the way, you guys sent me some crazy stuff about tricaners, and I am going to I almost like screamed in the middle of class as I was checking. There were so many of them coming in that were unrecognizable. It's a lot.
But yeah, I just think, like, obviously there are traits that every breed has, and that's why
we like them.
And that's why we use them, breed for certain traits, etc. But I like to think of horses a lot more individually, and so I think that just like, oh, thoroughbreds are hot, tricaners are hot, like
all Arabs are crazy.
Just in general, I wish there was like less of that, because
I agree. Yeah. Down here, it would be nice to have more quality dressage trainers. I think that we have a good amount. Like I'm really lucky to know a couple in the area that I really enjoy, but it's hard to access them.
Yeah, we're just not in a big English riding area.
I just rode past the Rose Palace, and there was a guy washing 4 horses tied to a horse trailer.
Yeah, there's just there's a lot of Western, which is very different than what we do, and the most popular thing around here. So it's hard to find resources for the stuff that we actually do.
It is. It would just be a lot easier. Like I would love to have more access to other stuff, but I think that's because of where we live.
Yeah.
Like it would be great to live in Katy and have Conroe and Houston and all of that.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Good old Bernie. Love it. It's the best. Okay. Favorite quirks of each other's horses.
Okay. We did not look at all of these beforehand, so.
I almost snorted into my glass because I was thinking about Houdini. Maria has this incredible way of making you think that she is completely asleep. And then next thing you know, she's either fallen over. I was talking about narcolepsy.
Because she was asleep.
It's fabulous. But also when you're like walking her out when we were at AEC's and you took her out in cross country and she just went from being like, this is cool, it's no big deal. And I was like, that's a steeplechaser. Someone run her down, Erin's lost control.
She knows her job for sure.
That was one of my favorite things. That's one of my favorite, I wouldn't say
It was the
quirk.
first time Bailey had ever seen me go on a cross country course, so it was a whole experience.
It was a big thing. Just in general, I was really confused about the whole warm-up setup. That whole situation was really terrifying to me. And then, like, horses getting loose and running off through Colorado that weren't from Colorado.
Yeah, there were.
Look that up on Eventing Nation.
There were some incidents.
It was a good one.
It was fun.
It was good. But I did like watching Maria run cross country. I think that's my favorite thing about her.
Let's see. Joy. Well, she does this thing every time you take off her bridle where she like uses you as a scratching post.
Try not to let her do it.
And I don't let my horses do that. So whenever she does it to me, I just like stare at her and then she stares at me and we have a little argument. So that's not my favorite thing about her. But
that's like one of your least favorite?
It just
like the lip thing.
It just comes to mind. But she's like really big, like mutual groomer, which I think is so cute because my horses aren't really like, they don't do that a lot, but I think it's like I've massaged her a few times and she starts off like really apprehensive about this scenario, and then I'll get to a spot that she likes and she literally will turn her head all the way around and look at me and just like try to nuzzle me with her lip, and it's really very sweet.
She's a good groomer. She doesn't usually use teeth, which is nice. She tries to be really gentle about it.
She knows the difference between horses and humans, fortunately.
Small mercies. I don't think she knows that sometimes. Houdini has this fascinating way of being so possessive over things that you realize that he's a Mustang. Mm-hmm. Like I could watch him hang out with Maria and be like, oh yeah, he at one point had his own herd. He probably has his own.
Yeah, he's like in charge.
But then once he's done running them around, then you actually have like a really sturdy friend. Like when I caught him and Apple grooming in the pasture, it was like Apple and Houdini in a tree.
He had put Apple through the ringer before they became friends.
It was a long-awaited friendship, but it was really good. I think, well, you just have those two. I do like Baldur, but I like Baldur because he makes you angry because the one time you did a clean flying change, you were in the Serpentine.
Yeah, this horse, he's a very, like, he was bred for upper level dressage, but we just could not teach him flying changes. Like, he just did not get it. Unless he just didn't get it. And then the one time that we got one, we were at a show in the middle of our test. We were doing a counter canter loop of a serpentine, and he just slipped it right through. And I was like,
you gotta do it to me now. Why you gotta do me dirty?
I can't rip you a new one because we're in a test, but why?
I do love that about him because it makes me laugh thinking. I was actually watching it. We were at the Palace. That was a good one.
Let's see, an Apple. He's just
feral.
So funny. He's a big disciplinarian. I think it's so funny because Posey is like way bigger than him, but she's learning, but to a degree, it's like she doesn't know that she can talk back to him.
She has no clue yet.
Okay.
She's like, oh. I watched her Tetris back up her way out of the stall the other day because he seemed mad at her for sharing hay.
He was like, "Get out of here! Don't look at me."
And then everything about Posey is great.
Yeah, and Posey's just perfect.
Just in general. She's the best baby. Maybe ever. Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, let's see. Now we're going out of order.
Oh, are we? Did I go out of order?
I think you skipped one. Okay.
Oops.
What is something that makes us both roll our eyes when we hear it?
Any of the stereotypes previously
Yeah,
mentioned.
stereotypes for sure. I feel like there's so many things.
I feel like you roll your eyes at me a lot alone. And so it's hard to find things that are mutual.
No, I don't think so. I think there's so many things that can come up with. I roll my eyes a lot, but
That's like one of your go-tos.
as a habit.
It's a good question, honestly.
Yeah.
Not trying to grade questions, but I haven't thought about it like that before. People going up and trying to backtalk judges' comments at shows. Like when they get their scores
go
back.
up to the judge.
Well, it's happened before, but like when I've either scored or scribed, like people have come up to me and
Oh, okay.
either been upset about their score or the comment. No, talking back to a judge in general.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone talk back to like approach a judge.
Would you like a story?
Argue, please.
I have a fun story, and I will not identify this person. I don't think they know who I am anyway. I was scribing at a rated show a year ago, about. This young rider who was riding as a pro. She was probably our age, in her 20s at least. She had a really, really hot, really nervous off the track girl
I think I
ride.
know this story.
Yes, I think I told you about it a couple of times. And he was really anxious. He was scared. It was early in the morning. He had every right to be upset. And she was really tense too. And I think they were just doing training level. It's not like it was the end of the world. But she wasn't really setting him up for success. And so he started rearing because there was a shadow that got cast in the Rose Palace Arena. And he also has a drop on, right? Like just a normal drop noseband. But it's sitting really low and it's not adjusted correctly. So it's flopping every time he shakes because he's doing the with his lips and it's hitting him in the face like this. And he's just rearing and rearing and rearing, right? It goes on for 45 seconds. The judge is like, nah, time to go. So the judge comes up and is nice enough to say, you've got a little time. Why don't you school him in the arena so the next time you come in for your next test, which should be like in an hour.
Lose his mind.
Why don't you make it a positive experience for him? Because he looks young and experienced that kind of stuff. She doesn't. She walks around all loose rein and he starts rearing still. So the judge rings and is like, it's time to get out. By the way, I just want to let you know that I think that the noseband might not be fitted correctly and it might be exacerbating the issue. And the girl walks up to the judge and says, it's a German drop. It's fitted correctly. And then walked out. And then the judge didn't realize it, and so I kind of thought about it.
Didn't react.
She didn't. She was a very nice woman. I can't remember who she was, but she was lovely. And then we talked about it, and she goes, "That girl talked back to me." She in the middle of a test looked at me and goes, "That girl talked back."
Just hit me.
And so she made a note the next time on her test. She was excused, but she still got her paper because she did 3 movements. So people talking back to judges is automatically.
Yeah, I kind of the same, not directly talking back to the judges, but when people get their tests or see the comments or whatever and think that they got robbed or something. I'm like, well, this is a sport where we kind of objective pay people to give us their opinion of us.
Literally judge us.
Yeah, to judge us.
Yeah.
So there's that. And they, not that judges are incapable of errors, but they are judges and they're probably far more experienced and educated
You go through a training.
than we are, yes.
Yeah.
So that makes me roll my eyes.
That's one of my favorites. And then I don't really... Little kids talking back to their parents or complaining about ribbons is always a big... And I say little kids as in actual little kids.
Yeah.
I mean 12 and under.
Children.
Not allowed to be on Instagram and under 13. Cut off.
So this is just on the at the top of my mind.
I'm sitting on my feet, sorry.
Because we were at a little hunter jumper schooling show a couple weekends ago, and
No.
at those shows the trainers will stand at the gate sometimes and coach, especially at a schooling show because it's a lot of green riders, maybe their first time in the ring, and so they're having trouble remembering their course or
Me.
putting it all together.
What is 4 cross rails? Is it a circle? Is it an X?
Which one's first? But when a group of people will stand at the bar, stand at the rail or at the gate and collectively yell things to the rider, that makes me want to pull my hair out. I can't I'm stop, you're not helping. Just relax. That makes me crazy.
That would make me crazy
That's
too.
not a thing that happens in eventing or dressage, but I've seen it a lot.
People saying ugly things to each other in the warm-up arena. Or just riding incorrectly in a warm-up arena in general. Left hand to left hand. Or I may or may not have been in a shouting match in a warm-up arena before.
Wow.
So, not my proudest moment, but also this woman would not give me the right of way she was like walking around this tiny horse, and so usually if you're on the same size horses, left hand to left hand, and then biggest horse to smallest horse are gaits, right? And so she's like pitter-pottering around, and Joy's being a lunatic. And so this woman,
I really need you to just
she like
get out
keeps
of my way.
cutting across me and says, "You should slow down." And I was like, "You make her slow down.
You should speed up.
Yeah, you just get out of the way." It was it's not pleasant, but it makes me really roll my eyes when people get upset at each other in the warm-up arenas.
Yeah, everyone's just doing their thing.
Just focus on yourself. Get a circle. Go outside. I don't care.
I feel like this one could go on for a while.
I roll my eyes at a lot of things.
Yeah, do that frequently.
Yeah. Those are, I think, my top things.
Yeah.
My top things, yeah.
Okay. Let's see, what's next? Horse hunting.
Someone asked how your horse hunting is going, and it's not me.
It's going. So I have been looking at like young thoroughbreds. So I haven't made any moves yet, but it's hard, especially thoroughbreds. If they're off the track, they tend to be a little bit anxious. So it's hard to really get a sense of their movements. And then a lot of times if they're young, like they're not going over fences yet or anything. So it's kind of a little bit of a crapshoot, but
It's worked out for some people.
Oh, for sure.
big people, so it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's mostly about conformation and personality at that point. So, and soundness, of course. So,
If it means anything, I haven't met any of them yet.
So
take that what you want.
still working on it,
Yeah, we'll find out.
but
Interested.
I will keep everyone posted.
Consider me following it along. Not just for this. Okay, so someone asked about leaving a bad barn. Now, there wasn't any other explanation if it was like bad because there's issues with the trainer or drama, you know how it gets when you're in a barn at a younger age. Now, if someone tried to give me drama, I think I'd punch them in the face. I'm just at that point in my life.
Be more trauma.
Yeah, probably so. So maybe that's against their liability insurance. I should do some research. But I've had a lot of experience leaving bad barns, mainly because of, I hate to use the word crazy.
Yeah, so it all depends. Like if the barn is bad because they're not caring for the horses adequately, if you're trying to get away from a trainer who is not professional,
or an owner that is not professional.
Yeah. Or if it's like the other people at the barn, like there's drama between the boarders or the riders or whoever. So I think it kind of depends what the
situation is.
Yeah, what the reason that you want to leave is.
So if it's because you guys don't see eye to eye, like there's bad care, strictly bad care going on, then just get out. You don't have to have any reason why. Just make sure, do everything in writing.
Yeah,
Get
everything in
contracts.
writing and just be civil.
Yeah.
Like don't
always be the higher person. It sucks if your horse has lost some weight, maybe your horse is not getting adequate water or adequate turnout. That doesn't really matter. You're going to be able to take care of them and rehab them as much as they're never going to have a bad hand in their life. But the way that you handle it will ultimately dictate the way that you're approached in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So have it in writing, know your exceptions to get out of the contract if something goes wrong, and if it's 30 days, then leave early, pay the money, and find a new place.
Yeah.
That's as easy as that. As for bad owners and bad trainers, same thing, man.
Yeah, just be civil, but get out of it as quickly as you can.
If you can be honest and say, hey, I don't think that our goals are really aligning, like if that's the issue, and you guys can have that talk and maybe you're not super competitively oriented, or maybe the trainer is not competitively oriented.
Yeah, it depends. It depends within that category. If it's like someone who is just not the best fit for what you want to do, or if it's somebody who is like abusive or aggressive or unprofessional in some other way.
Yeah, and my recommendation is if you are under the age of majority, which in most states, 18, guys, get your parents involved or get a professional involved that has your rights in mind, because otherwise a lot of your opinions might not be taken seriously. And it's fair, actually. I believe it is, because you're still a minor. Like you can't legally enter binding contracts on your own. So my phone decided to tell me I don't know my password to my email.
We're not sure what just happened.
Sorry.
But hopefully we didn't leave.
No, it says it's still there. It just doesn't matter. Like you can't enter it by yourself.
Oh no.
My email hates me, is what I'm learning. Just have a talk with the owner or the trainer, with someone who has your best interest at heart first. If that doesn't work out, then just be honest, take the high road and leave. And if it's with other girls, just leave.
Yeah, if it's with the other riders or
boys.
boarders at the barn, whoever it is, if you can't avoid them, like ride at times when a lot of other people aren't there, when it's not busy time, then just get out of it as quickly as you can.
If you have to make the best out of a bad situation,
It just depends. Yeah, like I've usually had 2 horses at my house, and we have I can comfortably have 3, room for 3 stalls, and so I've had Bailey's horses and other people's horses as kind of like a layover option. Like they just come and their horses stay here while they get their next situation figured out if it was like really bad where they were.
which is a godsend.
So maybe you have a friend who has a situation like that they can help you out. But other than that, just remember to be civil, but
Be kind.
yeah, just research your options and get out of the bad situations as fast as you can.
Yeah, because it's rough. It is no good. Do you want to take a brief moratorium real quick?
Sure.
And pause this and then see if the phone saves it and
Yes.
move on from there?
We're gonna make sure we're not having technical difficulties, and we will be right back.
Yes, be right back. Okay,
We're
we're back
back.
now. I finally stopped sweating so I can take my hair down again. So it's getting really hot.
I can't because mine's been up for 2 days, so it's gonna stay there till I wash it.
I need hot water. That's really what I need. I thought that it was just because it got down to like 19 at my house the other day and I didn't know where our water heater was, so it didn't get covered in stuff so it didn't freeze.
Oh.
And it's not. We have like 20 seconds of warm water. Lukewarm water at best. So dealing with that. Lots of you guys
Speaking
asked to keep this on our story. Yes. The
Yes.
first part is already saved. And
We
then
saved it, and so Bailey will keep it on her story as long as she can, but also we had some technical difficulties with the one we did in
First time.
January, and because we've never done it before, and it wouldn't save, but
also my phone was like 3 years old, guys.
yeah, the phone was having a hard time. But we have actually a whole page on Two Red Mares that is
press
going
box.
to be in the press box that is for these videos. So we're gonna save it, and then it'll be posted on the website, so you can see it there too once it's like gone from Instagram.
That way, if you don't want to watch it,
Yeah, if you
just don't skip class for this. Whoever said that, don't do that. I'm gonna get you. Don't miss class ever. I mean, I do it too much, but that way you can have it on the website and it'll be easier to go because this is only like 24 hours. It stays on there, and that's a decent time for people to get. But
Yeah.
if there's ever something that we've already previously talked about and that someone wants to talk about, then they can be redirected a little bit
Reference.
and go back.
Yes.
And someone said that parents counter coaching while their kid is actually being coached.
Yes, Summer said that.
Oh, Summer, I love you.
Yeah, that was one of her topics that she suggested. Parents counter coaching their kids while their kid is being coached by a legit trainer.
My parents didn't really do that because they didn't know what was really going on. Like they weren't
Yeah.
horse people.
Yeah, my parents didn't like try to coach me. They just tried to like if I was like stopped and talking like on the rail or something, they would try to like redirect me.
My dad always said, take it more seriously. But as we know, there's a famous video of my dad. It's not of my dad, it's of my dad commentating on
It's
a
of
video.
Bailey, but by her dad.
And my dad holds so much anxiety in his heart when
He-
I'm riding.
Like there's not more than 3 seconds of silence on the whole entire thing.
It's
He's
okay.
just like,
There's
what was that?
what was that?
The whole time. It's hilarious.
So my dad was never really he always comes up to me and he goes, you feeling ready? You feeling ready? I'm like, Dad, I've been doing this for like 20 years. I'm going to be okay. And he goes, well, how do you think it went? And I was like, I think it went okay. And he goes, I thought this was great. This was great. What was that? So now that I've gotten older and don't have a trainer around all the time, he just kind of talks to me like I'm the trainer,
Yeah.
which shouldn't happen.
He's the parent and you're the trainer.
Yeah.
There's no
And the
kid.
horse is the kid.
So yeah, I don't think we're addressing a lot of parents here, unfortunately, but
I think that it's really hard because you want your kid to do well, especially
Yeah.
riding, because if you are a rider yourself, not only you might have a reputation you want to uphold,
Mm-hmm.
or you might want to start this kid's reputation the right way, but at the same time, you are paying someone to
Yeah.
coach your child and to relinquish your responsibility. So be the show mom. Show up with the cookies
snacks and
what do you bring snacks to horse shows?
Mhm.
Yeah, show up with the tacos.
snacks and wine for after.
Yeah, for you,
For
for
the
the
adults.
grown up. Bring some bribing material for the trainer. Wine is usually good. And then just make sure everything is stain proof. Like,
Yeah.
you bring all the clothes.
Yeah.
And then
Laundry
just
is good.
duct tape your mouth shut, even though it's hard.
I still call my mom like every other week, and I'm like, hey, I have a laundry question. So laundry is helpful.
Taylor does all my laundry, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Also, most of my jackets are wash friendly. Like all my breeches, I have a pair of white Pipers. They can just go in and air dry, and it's totally fine. Or I have a pair of the Horse Crescendos.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my famous pair of green breeches that I have. I have the exact same ones in white, and I love them because of the high waist and, let's be honest, me a little help supporting belly. But those are friendly to wash too. So
Yeah. So I don't know.
And if you're
where
a
we're
kid,
going with this one, but
don't listen to your parents. This is the one time I would
don't
say
be
that.
disrespectful.
Don't be disrespectful, but say, hey, Mom, I'm trying to focus on what
Yeah.
Miss Sandy is telling me right now.
Yeah.
Can you please go get me some juice? I need a juice box. I don't know. I'm thinking of like little kids. I don't know
No.
why I'm thinking of 8-year-olds.
Fair enough. There are a lot of
Mom-
8-year-olds.
Mom, can you please get me my cell phone? I left it in the car, even though no teenager has forgotten their cell phone in a car. Like, just send them on a random errand.
Just
It
redirect.
works.
Yeah.
It does. Summer, you approve? Is this good? That's like the extent of all of the advice I have for parents. Because I'm not a
Because we're not
parent.
parents.
Taking kids to shows is fun though.
Yeah.
They just like panic.
Yeah, just if you are a parent, just be engaged, but don't be like too much of a pageant mom. Kind of thing,
That's a
like-
good way of doing it, yeah.
Yeah, like let them know that you're supportive, but don't be hard on them, obviously. But don't.
Was that your stomach?
I was Lucy.
I'm just making sure.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm hungry too, so.
I forgot what I was saying, but yeah,
Don't be a
too-
pageant mom.
Yeah, don't be a pageant mom. Just in any scenario in life, ever.
And don't be trying to distract your kid. The kids are gonna be nervous enough. Handling ponies at horse shows with nervous teenagers teenagers, preteens, younger, junior young riders. Let's not be offensive.
People.
Junior young riders is already hard enough, so just try and support as much as you can. And okay, so yeah, maybe if there is like snot on their face, tell them to like wipe that off.
Yeah.
But don't be upset that they're missing their diagonals.
Right. Be helpful, but don't be critical.
Yeah.
Like my mom has learned at this point that if something doesn't go so well, she just, when I come out of the ring, she checks on me and she says, "Are you okay?" And I'll say, "Yes." And then she leaves until I have had a chance to process. And
My parents typically don't come and find me until I get off. They're just like, whether I'm crying because I'm happy or upset, they're always just like, oh, I don't know, leave her be. Yeah. And then we do the whole run through of whatever has happened.
which is very helpful.
Which is great. But it needs to happen after I'm off the horse because usually it's either just me or just me and Aaron. So there's two hands for one very angry red mare. And you need 2 sets of hands for that.
Several horses.
Especially at shows. She's fun to handle. Okay.
Okay. Somebody asked for a blanketing guide.
We live in South Texas, guys.
Yeah, we're not probably the best people to ask about this. My general opinion is that we, like, as a community, tend to over blanket.
Seconded.
The rules are different, obviously, if your horse is clipped versus not clipped.
Like up north right now, it's like negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius. It's negative a lot.
It's cold.
I think it's negative Fahrenheit because I did the math.
Yeah,
And it was like negative 40 Celsius.
Yeah.
And couldn't do it.
it's cold.
So you guys have a different life than we do.
Yeah, so I think in general, the more you blanket, the more you have to blanket. But I
It's a
mean,
serpent eating its tail.
yeah, horses are probably better equipped than we tend to think they are for handling the cold without a blanket. So I like my personal rules here, because my stalls are not like in a barn, like it's not enclosed, so it's not significantly warmer inside the stalls. So I usually blanket them if it's below like 45, but they both are not clipped and they have pretty decent winter coats. So
Yeah, Houdini gets hairy.
yeah, Houdini gets a really thick winter coat. And then Maria, I'm a little bit more conservative with, just because she's hard to keep weight on, so I don't let her get too cold, but Houdini can handle it a little bit better than she can.
No, so I kind of do the same thing. Someone asked me the other day, because I think it was a response to me turning out the horse. I had a picture of like all of them walking outside, and it was negative 1 degree Celsius, so it was like 30 at the time. But someone asked if I didn't turn them out with blankets, and I said, well, no, I'm going to class, so it's an hour drive one way. It's supposed to get up to like 50 today already and be sunny. It's not raining and it's not wet. So my general rule of thumb is if it's below 40 and super windy, super wet, or...
Yeah, if it's exceptionally windy or raining, that's a different story. But generally, horses...
Like, we don't have snow.
Yeah.
We've
I
never
would-
had to deal with the snow.
Yeah, I would rather, especially in South Texas, I would rather them be a little cold than too hot.
Yeah. I do kind of the same thing that Erin does. Joy doesn't grow much of a winter coat, if any, like at all. So she typically stays in a light to medium blanket just in case, because she does shiver off weight just remarkably quick. Apple, however, gets this like mammoth hair. I mean, I don't know if you saw me yesterday, I was like covered in it.
Yeah.
So he gets a blanket when it's either raining and they're going out and it's below, like, I usually say 35 for him. And then Posey does not have one. She doesn't get one because I want her to grow a winter coat. I had a few drinks that night and I didn't remember putting a blanket on her.
It wasn't
to
a
be
blanket, it
honest.
was a quarter sheet.
No.
You put Joy's quarter sheet on her.
No. Well, that was a different night. But a couple of weeks ago, when I posted a picture and like, well, you fell in the creek and have to wear
Poor
Apple's
Posey.
blanket. I didn't remember doing that. That's rough.
Well,
Long story
But
short,
anyways.
the babies don't, at least with her, she doesn't get one. She grows a nice winter coat. And I don't want her body to begin to think when it gets cold
yeah.
that it can turn off. She always has free choice if it's really cold. She always has, the barn kind of gets enclosed and have rolled on the thingamajiggies, and she always has a ton of hay in front of her. And as long as she's got food in front of her, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. I've heard people say that their like rule of thumb is like if you need a sweater, your horse needs a sheet. If you need a jacket, your horse needs a blanket. And I don't really agree with that because we don't have coats of fur on our bodies, and horses do.
I mean, sometimes it
And,
feels like they do. But
yeah, their fur also is designed to where when they get cold, it stands up and it traps the heat from their body from getting out. And so if you put a blanket on, it lays the hair flat and it prevents it from being able to regulate their own body temperature. So
especially if it gets super hot during the day and then plummets and then goes back up, you're just asking for problems.
yeah,
Asking for trouble.
so less is more is my opinion.
Also, SmartPack has a blanketing guide.
Yeah, they have an app and you just like put in your horse with their like
Body weight.
their coat type, if they're turned out or in a stall during the day and at night. If it's like my stalls are not significantly warmer because they're like I don't have a barn aisle, they're closed on 3 sides, but they're still open to one side, so it's still like pretty much the temperature it is outside in there. Or if it is significantly warmer, and it'll calculate everything for you and it'll give you a suggestion. And
I find it to be
obviously,
pretty useful.
they're trying to sell blankets, so they are a little bit,
Stilted.
on the conservative side as far as over blanketing. So I usually take their recommendation and then go one step down.
Yes, that's how I used it too.
So-
And then I realized that Apple really didn't need a blanket very much.
Yeah.
He's just old and I love him.
Houdini doesn't really need one very often either, but I usually,
You have to have matching things.
Yeah.
So
they have matching blankets, so why would I not use them?
do it? So that's
Okay.
blanketing.
Blanketing.
Take from that what you will.
Okay, staying motivated without rioting relations in town.
That's hard because I did that a lot.
I don't know exactly what that's
So
referring
like,
to.
the way she asked the question was it's isolated in a town that maybe doesn't have a lot of equestrian ties.
Okay.
So staying motivated and that kind of thing. And to be honest, there's a lot of ways to stay motivated. Whether that you don't have to have the financial stability to be able to go and show or anything like that. Auditing, clinicking, if you can't clinic, then go audit. I shared a ton of different educational websites. We're kind of finally catching up for times.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of stuff you can do online to be able to continue your education, as I like to call it, or to get a little inspiration now and then. And I think that Instagram's a great place for that because you can connect with people who maybe are as isolated as you are. Like I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere. But I can see people who will inspire me to continue to work harder if I'm having a bad day. Or maybe I should try that exercise sometime.
Yeah, especially to get like different little tips and tricks.
Yeah, even just
Super
enhanced
helpful.
stuff is great. So I think that there are a ton of ways. If you want to, I wrote about this, about continuing your education on a budget. It's on the blog. So if you have questions that are more than what's there, reach out to me. I don't mind. But there are a lot of them. You tuned into Instagram.
I'm looking so that
You
I
just
can,
joined.
I know. I'm gonna read the questions that people are asking,
that's
so
nice.
that we don't have to move back there.
Got it. Okay. But I think that that's probably the best way to do it. Especially when you're in kind of a Western town and maybe you're wanting to be a dressage rider or an English rider of any kind. It's hard to find it, but there's a lot of more online resources than people maybe know about because they're not great advertised.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that I think the equestrian industry lacks a little bit is like public visibility. So
I'm working on it. We're just like 10 years behind everything right now.
but yeah, same thing. I agree. I think mostly online, finding resources to educate yourself or inspire yourself.
Magazines are great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of them. I can get all of them.
Yeah, it's nice to actually be able to like hold something in your hands too.
I don't like that, but that's okay. I just hold books all the time now, and so I get really tired. My hands get cramped up, and it's a lot.
Well, a magazine is not a textbook.
It is though. It to some.
It's this thick.
It just sounds
it
like
won't
so
cramp
much
your
work,
hands.
though.
Bailey's talking about books this way. You should see the book she gave me for my birthday.
The book is humongous. I couldn't believe it. It came in a box the size of a shoe.
Yeah.
Like one of the big shoe boxes, and I was like, that can't be a book. And I pulled it out, and it was a honker. That's a big thing.
It's a really big book.
Yeah. Okay, so we get asked this a lot, but about time management, Erin. Like how we be adults and manage everything. And I gotta be honest, I have very few answers.
Do we?
I try. I just eat a lot of fast food.
Yeah, I mean,
Ultimately, something's gotta give.
yeah, you have to be willing to make sacrifices, but it really just depends on what other things you have going on.
So if you have school, if you're in college, one of the things I did was I tried to get all my classes on the same days. So I would have like Monday, Wednesday classes or Tuesday, Thursday classes. So I was on campus all day those 2 days. So I had the rest of the time to either go to the barn. I also worked part-time in college. So it gave me more time. Like on Tuesday, Thursdays, I could wake up early and go lunch if I needed to, or I could come home late and lunch in the arena if I had light. But Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, if I didn't have class, then those were my days to get homework done, do your homework, and my days to plan out writing schedules. And then you have the weekends as well. It helps you just learn time management. I think doing writing, school, and having a job will teach you how to manage all of those things.
It's just a matter of setting a schedule and then being able to stick to it. Like, you just have to get really good at, like, I'm going to get up at this time, and then you don't hit snooze 4 times. You actually get up at that time, and I'm going to start writing at this time. I need to be off by this time.
Yeah.
I need to leave work by this time. So it depends what all you have going on, but just as a general rule, you just have to, like, figure out how much time you actually have to devote to each thing, and then really force yourself to stick to it.
It'll make you, if you are a junior young writer, it will make you a better person as you get older by creating those habits now and then moving forward in your adult life, because a lot of us will become professionals, right, in some various career field where we're not going to have the flexibility of having a part-time job like we did in college, or my ponies at my house, that kind of thing. Like, you really have to be able to make a schedule, stick to it by the minute, and then follow it, and then, but within that schedule, give yourself breaks.
Yeah.
Like within my study schedule, I give myself 5-minute breaks every 15 minutes. The Pomodoro method is technically what it's called, but it works really well for ADD. So I do that a lot. But it helps even at the barn. Like, I'll cut myself a little slack, give myself a break from stalls. That's the only way you're going to do it. And plan ahead for the month, whether that's because you have lessons or you're planning your feed deliveries, or because that's, for me, that's an additional hour into my day, picking up grain and unloading it and then dealing with the horses. If you are going to be showing, plan out how you're going to show, plan out your packing schedule, learn to save yourself time by being more efficient. I think is probably the best way.
And one thing that's really helpful for me, if you're like feeling overwhelmed, like, oh, I have to do all these things and it's just stressing you out, just sit down and write everything that you need to do down, so it's on paper, and then it's not like floating around in your head and you're not trying to like keep track of it intangibly. You have it in front of you, and then you can make a plan, like an actual plan.
Get yourself a good app that works too, like for calendar apps.
Yeah, if you're like or electronic person, then really utilize the stuff that you can do on your phone, calendar or to-do list wise, or if you're on paper person, then get a really good planner.
Also, get used to getting up early and staying up late.
Yeah,
it sucks, but you really only need 8 hours of sleep. That gives you 12 hours to do the rest of the stuff. And if you're me, you might need more than 8 hours, but you're just gonna deal with it anyway. So that's really the big thing. Especially, law school was a huge change for me. I honestly had no idea what I was getting myself into, and sometimes I still question it. But it made me realize that while I was pretty good at scheduling and following a schedule in undergrad, and when I was just working for that 1 year, like the weird gap year that I had, I had no idea how I needed to become a professional scheduler.
Yeah.
Like I needed a professional planner. And once I started doing that, helped a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So
Danielle asked about, she said, have y'all been seeing anything on the problems with judges and getting them? She said, I've been seeing a lot of discussion on how we have set up a system where it's difficult getting judges for schooling shows.
I have not, Danny. I know that there's a lot of stuff on Eurodressage right now about the subjectivity of judging and how we've created a system that's essentially made to fail. Now, in our area, I know it's hard to get schooling judges because for some reason, our schooling shows do USEA, USDF, and Western Dressage. And so in order to do that, you have to have a judge that is licensed in at least the bare minimum of all three of those. And that's unfair, I think. If it's going to be a dressage show, then be a dressage show. But
Summer said Bailey 8 plus 12 is 20, not 24. So you have 16 hours.
you have 16
to do
hours.
the other things.
I didn't major in math, guys. Like, it's hard for me.
Thank you so much.
Why did I have 20? Well, I just did, like, round it up.
Well, you didn't say 24. You just said if you sleep for 8 hours, that gives you 12 hours to do the other stuff. So, thank you for
What we're learning
keeping
is
us honest, Summer.
use a planner and, like, plan your going to
And a
bed time.
calculator
And a
if you need
calculator if you do. Okay. Moving onward. That's the issue I've been seeing with schooling shows here.
Okay.
That's what I've heard from judges that I have subscribed for that did schooling shows here. Now, I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the country. And
Yeah,
Danny, where are you? Virginia? Kentucky? One of them? You're one of those states that has more writers than us do. Than we do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough to speak intelligibly.
To be fair, I was considering sitting for my L next year. I was going to do it in 2019, but then like law school. So I was thinking of doing it in 2012 or maybe the year afterwards. So I'm hoping to get more experience in that because whenever you judge, you don't have to write as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be an AA,
Yeah.
which is nice. But I'd like to do it not to be a judge, but to get the
Just to,
education behind
learn.
it. It's a serious commitment though. So
Yes.
it might be that the price is really high, and also small clubs can't afford to pay a lot
Yeah.
for schooling shows.
Yeah, it just depends what the organization running it has as their resources, I guess.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not sure. I'm sure you have links on that. Send them to me. She sends me lots of stuff. Good things. Things that I probably have not seen before. So.
Okay. Show season budget tips.
Meal planning.
Yeah.
That's rough. Frozen foods. All of mine are food related. Learn to do your own braiding.
Yeah, I think they mean like specifically.
Well, what I mean, like when you're going out to horse shows and stuff like that, you usually are traveling, you're usually in a hotel, so prepackaged food. You don't have to do that kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
Like your mom brought all of those fruit gushers and I ate like 4 boxes and got so sick.
But we didn't eat those for dinner.
Well,
We just
You
ate them
didn't.
throughout the day. You ate dinner. I would say look at at least not the full season, but at least the spring season or the fall season or whatever part of the season that you're in as a whole, and figure out what you want to do. Like prepare months in advance, not just like, oh, I think I want to go to that show in 2 weeks, because you'll be able
You
to
have to adjust
figure
money.
Yeah, you'll be able to figure out over the whole season how much you're gonna spend on entry fees and stabling and whatever. And you don't want to be paying late fees if you don't have to, if you can just look at the calendar and plan ahead.
Yeah. And I think Erin probably has better experience with planning out seasons because I usually never did seasons. I did 2 shows, and if I was lucky, I did regionals. Like that was kind of I did my ADA in the spring and did my ADA in the fall, and if I did qualify for regionals, which I think I've done most years, but I've only attempted to go 3 times. One time I didn't make it because Joy did that thing to her leg.
Yeah.
That was rough. So I typically will just plan out a weekend, and what helped me was that it's not that far from where I was staying, and so instead of paying for a stall for the whole weekend, I would just trailer in and out. But that's not ideal for every horse. That was just a way that I found.
Yeah, if you are able to, in Texas, we really can't because unless you live close to one of the shows, but everything's so spread out for events that there's no way to do that. But
No,
I
for
know
sure.
in other parts of the country, you can get to like 6 shows driving an hour.
Even right in Wellington, you can just walk.
Yeah, so if you can not stable on grounds, if that works for you, that's definitely another way to save.
Doing your own braiding is huge. I pay lots of money for people to braid, but then I realized that Joy hates the braided in braids and she rubs her mane out. So I learned how to do them myself and saved myself $60 a weekend.
I know how to braid, but my mom does it, and she's
Your mom
much
does a
better
great job.
at it than I am, and I think that she enjoys
She got really mad at
being
Joy
able
when-
to do it. So I'm very happy to have her do that.
I'm trying to think. Avoid tax shops.
Yeah, I don't do extraneous shopping if you can avoid it.
You and that vest. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other things. Most of my stuff was not, and I'm not doing like brands or anything like that, but
If you're really look at schooling shows in your area, like if you're not trying to qualify for something, you're just trying to get some experience, get your horse out. Usually they're at a lot of the same venues, and they cost a whole lot less. So
yeah, if you're just looking to get comments back.
yeah, if you're just looking for feedback or experience or whatever, look into schooling shows rather than recognized shows, because there are probably a lot more than you think,
Yeah, for sure.
and they're probably closer to you.
I stay at skeefy hotels.
Yeah.
I like the sketchy ones. Taylor hates where I stay. He's like, we're gonna get this hotel. I was like, are you paying for it? Because
It's
I'm not gonna.
gross. Yeah. I've stayed in like the grossest hotels in the state of Texas, so
The one you told me about was rough.
very hard to offend when it comes to hotels. But yeah, if you can stomach it.
Go for that.
Yeah.
I typically don't buy food at venues. I almost
Like at the
exclusively,
concession
yeah, I
stand? Yeah.
exclusively refuse to do it. I usually bring my own booze too.
We usually, like at ours, we can't buy it.
You can't buy alcohol?
I mean, like, where would you buy it? They don't have it at the concession stand.
Yeah, they do. At the Palace.
That's not an event,
Well, that's not an event.
in my experience.
Most horse.
They'll have like a rider's welcome party where they'll have wine or something, but
no fancy like the
You can't
dressage
just, like-
shows. They usually have bars.
yeah, you can't. There's not a bar.
Okay, so if you're a dressage rider, bring your own booze. There you go. If you're an eventer, bring your own
If
booze
you're an
too.
adventurer, just do it because
You're not gonna have any regulations that tell you not to. I don't know. I try and not buy like fancy show outfits. I have this one Matt's pad
yeah,
that I've been using.
Just find what you want to
Just
show
don't go over the top.
Yeah,
for the sake of
and-
being at a show.
make an investment in something that is quality and is going to last, and then that's all you need.
Yeah, ride for any field boots as long as you can. You don't have to invest in dress boots. You don't need a fly bind 95% of the time in a dressage show, so that's an additional $30 plus shipping. If you're put more money into your schooling and to your preparation than it is to your turnout, I think is always a good thing.
Yeah, as long as you're clean and
Neutral colors.
yeah, well presented, then nobody's going to care. The judge is not going to care what brand your coat or your helmet or whatever.
No, in fact, sometimes they hate it.
Yeah,
Had a judge talk some
go
mad
easy on the
smack.
bling.
She was like, "Man, I wish she had spent some of that money on training her horse." Real comment.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Okay, and the last one we have is the blood rule.
Yes. So, someone told me that they assumed that I hate Marilyn Little one time.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, which was not something that I could answer and avoid. I went on one of my deep dives during one of my classes where I was on Euro Dressage and I was looking at reports from the 2010 WEGs, maybe? It might have been the 2010 WEGs. It was either 2010 WEGs or the 2012 Olympics. And I gotta be honest, guys, we kind of vilify eventers for a touch of blood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not defending anyone, so let's just make that clear.
So it's just a general discussion, not about anyone.
Yeah, we're not on any specific side. Obviously, blood's bad, but there were so many horses pulled out for the blood rule in dressage, and I'm not talking about a bite on the lip. I was talking about spur marks, right? Like ugly spur marks, especially on white horses. Like I don't even know how you can. I wouldn't even wear spurs. I'd be so panicked at international games. But if people actually paid attention to who's getting disqualified after they do their test when they go to the TDs in Grand Prix dressage, low-level dressage, whatever it is, I've disqualified a horse at second level because he had a nosebleed, right? That there's a routine you go through, but you have to report it. So it's that. I wish that people paid more attention to what really happens instead of just following along blindly into the media.
My issue with that situation was that it seemed
suddenly became an expert.
Yeah, it seemed more like people were just parroting things that they had heard or read from not even reputable sources, just from other people. And everyone was just getting each other all riled up. Obviously, as Bailey said, blood is bad.
I think it's almost worse if it's on the sides. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, well,
Because
I think it's harder to draw.
To achieve.
Yeah.
You have to really work for that.
From your spurs, then yeah,
Then
definitely.
like I bit my lip the other day and blood everywhere. I'm not saying that it should be okay. There should be a blood rule instated.
Yeah, of course.
100%. But when eventers come out and have like a tiny drip of blood and foam, right? Any of them. Marilyn Little was one of them. I think she happened to get the brunt of it because there was a couple of incidents of other horses leading up to that year, whenever that happened at Rolex or something. Batman and Burley, one of them. Just because a horse isn't bleeding from the mouth.
Right, that's not the only manifestation of abuse.
Yeah, or
potential abuse.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was my thing with her too, is that, okay, yeah, she had a couple of horses that this had happened on.
Yeah.
There was a couple of different instances.
For sure.
Now that, you want to stack the cards in the favor, and the cards are slowly falling away.
Right, it's
that does not
establishing a pattern.
Yeah, right? And it's like the unluckiest woman in the world. I'm talking about the guy who had the 2 wives that fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
Must be the unluckiest man in the world.
Right.
Exactly. So that kind of thing. So quickly things were falling away. However, that doesn't mean it should be done for every rider. That people should just essentially throw around conjecture.
Yeah.
And hearsay for no reason. And try to demolish their character. Things like that happen at lower level stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Just that doesn't make it okay. But we need to be educated about what's going on, why it happened. Also, if you're riding a 4-star horse,
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Like I've never come off of a cross country course with blood in my horse's mouth, but I've also never ridden a 4-star cross country course. I've never ridden a 4-star horse, and never used any bit similar to any that she was using.
right, because we haven't had to.
Right.
So there's another breakdown, right, is that people tend to make assumptions about tack. And I've seen a lot about this recently. I think that some of this has been going on about bits and spurs. I didn't want to weigh in on that, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, somebody just said that I think what made people mad the most is that for Marilyn, it was a pattern, and it absolutely was.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's evidence of it. That wasn't conjecture. That was not a conjecture. And I think what also didn't help was that I think her groom met her with the red towel.
Yeah, my issue with that, I think they definitely were
worried.
Yeah, they were acting defensively, but I don't necessarily think that is an indicator that they were purposely doing something wrong. I think they just had like people breathing down their neck. She definitely had something going on. The bits she was using,
She's a double twisted gag,
pretty
right?
harsh, yeah, and maybe not warranted. But
again,
I think
you and I have neither done, and most people who commented on this situation had not done such a thing. Right. And it's like people saying that double bridles are cruel and unusual.
Yeah, it all depends what hands they're in.
It's not only the hands, but it's the horse that you're riding and what you're doing. Right. Yeah, if you can do it in a snaffle, that's great. Love it. But I wouldn't run around, I can't even begin to, because I'm not experienced enough, to make judgments upon a 4-star rider's bit choices. Obviously, it would be great if it wasn't a twisted double wire gag. Right. That seems like maybe asking for trouble. But at the same time,
especially if
you've had an issue
for
before.
whatever reason the horse has, I mean, it wasn't the same horse every time, but there's been a pattern of issues with it.
Yeah, and I just, don't get me wrong, I was pretty irritated and I was hot and bothered about it, but it was the online vilification.
Yeah, we're not defending her because she definitely made a mistake and should have addressed it differently, but also just make sure that before you get all up in arms about something, make sure that you're actually seeking out accurate information, not just what everybody else is passing on.
Yes. So I think I brought this up to Aaron a while ago because I was going through all of these old records about dressage stuff because I don't have anything better to do with my time. Why wouldn't I? And I was able to get some info about why certain horses were disqualified. They were not withdrawn. They were disqualified. It's not uncommon to have one horse at a World Games that bites their tongue.
Sure.
Gets
They're horses.
Yeah, there's one out of 100 of them. Something's gonna happen. But when they check them at the end, right, especially a dark horse, and you don't have either white foam, marshmallow fluff, whatever it is, and you can't see on the sides that easy. When you're a TD, especially at a World Games, even when you're just doing basic TD stuff or gatekeeping, you have to run a clean glove between the horse's barrel and the spur every single time with every horse with each horse, and you have to make sure the spur is spinning as well. But that on a clean glove will show you if there's actual blood or anything like that going on. And there was the right kind of oversight being taken. What people weren't seeing is that these horses were withdrawn and these riders were not making statements about it. And so people watch cross country, right? And it's easier to see things like that versus these things that happen in the shadows. And if we're going to if everyone's going to become an armchair critic about everything, then they really need to look at other disciplines as well and not vilify just the sport, the single discipline. Yeah. Because after reading a whole bunch of stuff about the dressage horses, I was like, there's more blood in this than I saw at Rolex the past 4 years, whatever it was. And that made me really irritated that all these people were so willing to get mad and to try and ruin this girl's character. Again, she had a couple of things on her record already, but no one cared about these dressage horses, or no one cared about these show jumpers, right?
Yeah, and I think probably another aspect of the Marilyn Little situation that people were upset about was that the officials weren't pulling her up or disqualifying her or whatever it was. I mean, first it was because in the dressage it looked like her flash was done really tightly.
Yeah, there's 2 pictures that made it look bad. It looked like it was a tight flash. I wouldn't put one on that tight, but
I'm sure it was tight, but the horse was also obviously working really hard, I think.
Well, he was doing the blowout.
And so everything was...
But then everything just already pointed to her. So she could have made any mistake. That horse could have tripped.
Right. And
she could have lost a stirrup and someone would have been like, that's because she made her horse's mouth bleed.
Right. And then like on cross country, if you have a gray horse that gets a nick, you can obviously see the blood much easier than you can on a bay horse with black points.
Yeah. The whole thing.
And so I think that the officials are trying to operate from a place that keeps horse welfare in mind, but also the competition. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so hard to find the line.
Yeah.
I think that's what people have issues with. Is I think in particular me, I have like a crazy overactive conscience. One time I had got off of do you remember Durango? He was that little chestnut with the 4 points that stayed with Joy for a year. One time I got off of him and he had bitten his tongue and there was blood, just wasn't pouring, but there was enough blood for me to go, why didn't I see that? So for me, I automatically, if it's my horse, I'm like, well, why didn't you notice? Why weren't you being this conscious? But at the same time, these are crazy,
and also
huge
it was like you'd see a photo of a horse that had bitten its tongue or pinched by the bit or whatever, and there's foam in the mouth and there's a little bit of pink in the foam. You can see that on a really high resolution photo when you zoom in and it's a still frame. It's a lot harder to see that if you're a fence judge or a technical delegate and the horse is galloping by you.
Those bees run fast. those bees. I think that people try and blame governing bodies, saying that they don't have the correct oversight, when in reality, people have not been in those positions.
Right.
Nor everyone's acting from a place of horse welfare and acting from a place of sport, of course, but they're still human. Like, they're still fallible.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be 100% all of the time, especially when you have horses coming in from Europe. You've got all these separations. There's all these rules, all this other stuff. Something's got to fail.
Yeah.
One little thing has got to fail. And unfortunately, it happened to be her. It happened to be this weekend. That weekend. It happened to be after a series of unfortunate events. And everyone just assumed that there was no care being taken.
Right, yeah.
And that really kind of broke my heart a little bit, that we didn't have more faith in these people that are supposed to be keeping us safe.
Right.
Or our horses, you know.
Yeah. I think that Marilyn in particular, obviously, she uses harsher bits. She's riding really strong horses probably. But I think the automatic assumption was that she's evil and she's doing it on purpose to hurt her horses. And I just don't get I just can't imagine that somebody would make this their career if they didn't
give a shit.
Like, She obviously is a top level show jumper and eventer, so she's independently wealthy in some way.
Yeah.
I don't know her
Independently
history.
wealthy and self-funded.
Yeah, I don't know her history, but it's not like you can. I mean, I don't know. It's not.
She's not doing it for the fun of it.
Yeah, it's not like you would just do it because it's easy,
Yeah.
easy money or something. Like, I can't imagine that somebody would make this sport their life and their career if they didn't actually care about their horses. And
Yeah.
there's also people around her. She has vets. She has all of her grooms, her support staff, her trainers. You didn't see any other upper level riders vilifying her because I think they, understand.
Mistakes happen.
Yeah.
I think that had this been anyone else, it would have been okay. And I'm not saying that it should be okay, because I don't think blood in the mouth or blood on the flank should ever be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it again was the actions of everyone following it that made it seem like everyone who was at Rolex made this seem like more of a business than a passion, more of a monetary venture instead of a vocation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why everyone was willing to like put these bits on their horse and use these spurs. And that's the same argument that's made for every upper level rider, for everyone pushing a young horse through the FEI young horse stuff. It's all about money, money, money. It is, but not to the extent of ruining a horse.
Right, like
There's bad apples everywhere, but
right, like we were saying, it is a business. Like, people have to be able to make a living at it. But I don't think that you're just like, how am I going to make my fortune? Horses. Like, no one's ever said
you know
that.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rip their tongues out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just cut their mouths open. Everyone's gonna be a huge thing.
Yeah, horses never cause you to lose money, and
Never.
they always turn a profit.
Every time. Don't you know that? I am so much money in debt because they always win.
Right. So
That's kind of all I had about that. I was so frustrated by. Did anyone? I'm sure everyone did. I asked that question like everyone's here. Sorry, guys.
everyone chime in.
Everyone. If you watch the Rio 2016 games and Anki Ingridson was on the big chestnut. What was his name? Four Socks, Big Blaze, not Parsival. Yeah, it was Parsival. I just can't remember his rider's name. I'm blanking on Dutch female riders for some reason. Oh no. I can't keep everything in line. But she was pulled out because of an issue with he wasn't tracking up in a half pass or something like that. He looked visibly lame.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be his last games, whatever it was. But it was something kind of similar because while this rider did train with trainers that are well known for using LDR and Roker and stuff like that, she had 2 blood pullouts before where they had blood in the mouth. He was just lame. But his tongue was lolling. It was really weird. So then later that day, they posted a picture of him and he had gotten stung by something. And then the rumor mill started that she had broken his jaw.
Yes.
I am not here to comment on that, but what I can say is that lots of stuff like that happens in dressage and in show jumping that does not get the kind of publicity that an eventer doing something wrong would.
Sure.
And I think that that's unfair for everyone, really.
Yeah.
If you're going to give all of this time and heart and conscience to a sport, you need to give it to all the parts of the sport and not just one.
Yeah.
Because if you vilify one, you need to vilify everyone else. That's really my take on that. Yeah. I have lots of things to say about that, but I think it's really just the same thing said in a bunch of different ways, honestly. I think that's it. That's what I got.
Summer said, if you want to be a millionaire in the horse industry, start off a billionaire.
It's a good way of doing it.
And that is exactly the truth.
So that should say something about where we are financially.
Yeah, but to your point, she also brought up drugging horses, especially in hunters. And
I heard stories about that.
Yeah, like you read that like on a dressage specific website, or you read about that on a hunter specific website maybe, but it doesn't get the same level of exposure.
I think it's because people look at eventing almost like racing. Right?
Yeah, like
it's
it's
got the same
already
kind of negative
like,
publicity.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Santa Anita just got closed down because of the 21 horses, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though it wasn't 21 horses in a day, thank God. I misread the title and I was like, that's still not great.
Right.
But it's commonplace in some disciplines where it shouldn't be, and then it's overexposed in other disciplines when it's simply a mistake.
Maybe a minority, yeah.
It's almost obviously a minority, because I think if anyone has the most vet care It's going to be these international eventers who bring in horses from across the world,
Right.
and that's a lot of pressure to not keep your horse up and running. So that's why it's so devastating when something happens. But that doesn't mean they deserve more backlash than everyone else. But that's where I am with that. It's a fun lecture. I could continue just preaching about it.
Okay, well, that's all the topics that we had previously collected, unless anybody who is here right now wants to chime in.
I'm sure people will send in stuff. They did it last time, where after they're watching the live, they sent me
Stuff.
So I'll keep a better collection of it this time. I'll be more organized. Just
Someone says reiners numbing their horses' tails to prevent swishing.
Oh, that's an old Arab thing. I've heard about that.
Or the saddlebred stuff, like anything to do with saddlebreds.
I
that was a big thing for a while. And
it still is, but I think it's gone away in our
Don't hear
place
about
because
it,
of
yeah.
and the big lick, right? All of that stuff. I've heard of nerving reiners' tails. I've also heard of the like sticking cinnamon up the rear. Wait, this is just getting to abuse, guys. Like
their tails, yeah.
There's bad eggs and everything.
Sure.
That everyone should be held accountable for their actions. And in certain disciplines, there are people who hold people less accountable, like certain circuits, because it becomes commonplace.
Right.
Like a big lick. In other sports where horses are actually athletes, they deserve a little bit more. I think that we give them more care.
Yeah.
And
Someone asked, any more advice on deciding when it's right to leave a trainer or barn?
girl, I got you.
Do you have like anything specific
So
that's going on?
if you feel like you have outgrown your trainer, it's a really common stepping stone. That's where I'll begin with that. If she comes back.
I'll see if she.
If you feel like you've outgrown your trainer, that's okay, and you can have that conversation. I made the mistake of having a really close relationship with my trainer growing up. Did she respond?
No, somebody else.
Okay.
Sorry. Continue, I'm reading.
Okay. I had a really close relationship with a trainer, but it became too maternal. It was not professional enough. And so when I started to gain independence and wanting to reach out on my own, I was inevitably, excuse my French, given a ton of shit and was treated very, very poorly. And I should have left years before that. To be honest, I considered writing about it, but it's kind of hard to do. My parents weren't super involved because they really trusted her, and there's no shame to my parents whatsoever. But I should have known, and it was ready to pull the trigger. But I was really worried about not being able to afford, Apple and Joy and having to sell them and not have horses anymore. I was more willing to take the shit. If you're a trainer and you do not see eye to eye, leave. If you're a trainer and you have different ethical opinions about your sport, that's okay to disagree with. You're supposed to disagree with people that'll help you grow. Right? Like, you can have those discussions. You and I talk about stuff all the time that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on,
right.
But it's supposed to be illuminating. So then leave, if you, especially if it's unethical.
Yeah,
Just
if it's
get out.
anything, like there's somebody in here right now is talking about she had a thoroughbred who was a little bit wild, and a trainer asked to drug him for a schooling show, never offered to ride him, also used studded nose bands and wrapping, they later found out. There's a difference between
Abuse.
Abuse and just
Outgrowing.
not a good fit. Yeah.
Like, Erin's trainer and I probably would not be, her trainer and I are good friends, and not because we don't have the same training ideologies, but because we have different goals, right? We probably wouldn't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
You and Richard would probably not have been a great fit, whether personality-wise or opinion-wise.
He judged me one time at a show, and
She never forgave him.
did not go well.
Yeah, he doesn't forgive
I
me.
had like a "you do it" moment.
It's okay.
in my head,
He didn't let me stop. Remember, I had
Not in real life.
had the fire ant in my eye. He
Yeah,
thought I was
it was
crying.
literally 31 degrees and just raining sideways,
Guys,
and
there's no excuses.
and he was in his warm truck, so I was not thrilled with
Yeah.
his comments.
If you're having issues because of a horse you're leasing, or you are,
She's okay. The girl that specifically asked us to go back to it said
What's
trainer unprofessionalism.
get out ASAP. I mean, that will follow you around. I made the mistake of associating with a couple of people that have really negative reputations in our local community, and it's followed me around a lot. Not because I did anything wrong, but because this specific person continued vindictively. It's like 20 all over again. Decided to spread rumors to me about what was going on because she was unprofessional. Now, I was lucky enough that people actually knew me well enough that were willing to come and approach me and be like, that doesn't really sound like you. But if you're young enough that it can tarnish your reputation, you really gotta go.
Yeah, it's hard.
Especially if they're treating you like crap or treating your horse like crap.
That's kind of what they're talking about in the comments too, that if you're young and maybe you're new to the sport, you don't know who
we kept going. I gotta have a little bit more.
Who is trustworthy and who you should avoid. Like we had my trainer has a horse for sale right now, and somebody came to look at her, and they ride with a certain barn in town.
Oh, do they?
And they said when they came to try the horse, they said, we know people don't like her, so like you don't have to tell us. We know. Like, we know what public opinion is of her. And I was like,
I want to know offline. You got to tell me this because you didn't tell me who this was.
I was like, what does why is your assumption just that everybody else is like,
here's the thing,
crazy? Like, what does that say to you if there's so much smoke?
Right. If there's so much smoke, it's not that there's like a tiny little fire. It's usually a brush fire. But my thing is that if you're going to be unprofessional to your clients, that tells a lot about how you're going to treat horses.
For sure.
Behind the scenes, that says everything, and that would make me incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so leaving that kind of situation can be very uncomfortable. Even if you are an adult, have your parents with you. Like I would have my dad. My dad helps me.
It's hard when you're young because it's hard to be assertive.
It's also hard to know what you're getting your feelings hurt on, if it's realistic or not.
Right. And if you are new to the sport and your parents are not horse people already, then they probably don't have an idea of... they probably don't have an idea of like what's acceptable and what's over the line. You see that a lot.
So, did she say if she had her own horse?
She didn't.
She didn't? Okay. If you have your own horse, find an ad interim solution for yourself until you can find a good one. If you don't have your own horse, give that lease horse a huge hug and a piece of your heart and say goodbye.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard. I'll probably write about him later, but I had to say bye to Boston when I left. He was I think I've been lucky enough to have 4 Heart horses in my life, and he was my second. But I didn't own him. I lost him when this specific owner and I split, even though I was full leasing him and had put 7 years of my full lease time into him. I couldn't have afforded 3 horses at the time. It was stupid. I was 18. But I said goodbye, and I said, thank you for everything you taught me.
Yeah.
But it's hard. And it also, maybe you feel like you're maybe going to lose your friends. You might lose other opportunities. But you have the opportunity by leaving to be the bigger person again.
Yeah.
To be better than what's going on. And you don't have to say what's going on if they're unprofessional, unless you feel something deep in your soul that says, no, girl, like someone's asking you about barns and you say, you got to avoid this area.
I've done that. If somebody is trying to get their kid into lessons and they've asked me or my mom, like there are some people that like I wouldn't ride with but I don't have a problem with, and then there are some people that I'm like, please do not take your kid there, like don't go down that path.
It'll only cause heartbreak.
And don't gossip, just factual, like, well, I've seen this and I disagree with it because of this reason, and that's it.
It sucks. And no matter what age you're at, unprofessional trainers are really hard. And it really breaks my heart to think about people having to be in those situations because it is so hard. If you need to talk to someone, please reach out, because I don't know if you've been with Diane all your life.
Yeah.
So you're one of the minorities, but I've been through some really shitty trainers, and I'm really happy to. If you just need to run what you're going to do by me and I can give you an objective third-party opinion, I am so happy to do so, because you need to have the opportunity to grow. Your horse needs to have the opportunity to continue his education without unprofessional behavior, and you deserve the opportunity to have an untarnished reputation, whatever that means for you in your sport. It means different things in different places.
Yeah.
But I would be happy to. So just feel free to message me and we can talk about it offline, because that way you don't have to tarnish anyone's name on here. We don't need to begin the defamation suits now.
Give us too many details in public.
But I'd be happy to talk about that. There's a lot of stuff that happened when I was a teenager that was really rough to get through, and still like weighs on my back a little bit.
Yeah.
So thought about writing about it, but I need to figure out how to keep it anonymous, and that's really hard
Protect
in our
the guilty.
area. Yeah. It's rough. Was that it? Is that all?
Yeah, unless anybody has a last minute, ask it now.
What are you doing for the rest of your day?
I am going skiing this weekend, so I have to pack.
Yeah, you're a last minute packer. I love you for it.
Well, I've just done all my laundry like this
That's
morning.
fair.
So.
I saw the video of all your pipers hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fun. Are you still going with your?
Yeah, I'm going with my husband and his sister and her husband.
Cool. That's good. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah. Of course, my sister-in-law normally is the one that stays at my house with all of my herd of animals. So now they're all going separate places to be cared for the weekend. But
I know. I offered to bring them over, but I thought that last time Maria was over, Apple was real mad. He was like,
I
"This
know.
is my
it
baby."
was spicy. Yeah, I don't know if both of them over there would be better or worse.
It might be It might just be like so much anger.
Yeah,
Altogether.
like it would just be chaos and no one would know what to do.
Have I shown you the video that I have of Apple and Maria?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
He was like so angry, and she was like,
she was like, "We were cool, man.
What
Do you
is
remember when
wrong
we
with
were
you?"
friends?" And Apple's like, "I'm a dad now.
I've
changed."
He'd only had one red mare at a time around before, and then there were
And then
three.
suddenly 3.
And he was like, I don't know what to do.
I know. Please don't put your tongue in my mouth.
Yes. But they are going to the boarding facility where my trainer works.
Well, let me know. I
For
can
the
go
weekend.
visit them if you want me to. I don't really have anything to do. Considering I'm considering that my spring break started yesterday. Maybe the day before. I still have to work, kind of, but I only can work like 20 hours a week. And then I only have one more class, but it's an hour, and it's tomorrow. I know. Yeah, I know. So let me know if you need me to go say hi or anything like that. Maybe check on your chickens as one of them got loose.
Yeah, one of my chickens just like found an escape hatch when Bailey came over. She was like, "Are they separated for a reason?" They weren't. One
In
of
case
them
you
just
haven't,
left.
if you haven't met me in real life, I have to think about birds.
She really likes all fowl.
I do like fowl. I just love waterfowl. But I did raise chickens for a really long time, not meat chickens. I raised them because I loved
Show
them.
chickens.
They weren't show chickens either.
They were show chickens. She just didn't show them.
I took them to Gillespie a couple of times.
So they were show chickens.
They were best in breed. But I love chickens in particular. I do love them. So it was funny. It was like when we had the box of chicks that came when you were over when we were kids. I was like, this is like an older, shittier version of that morning. Except I've got one hen.
Just one, and the other one's like, let me.
She's like, hey,
Yeah.
what's going on? Okay, guys, this has been really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us talk at you
Thanks
for a little while.
for talking to us also.
That is very nice. We do like that.
So we're gonna save this. Hopefully we
The last one did.
We saved the first half, so that's good. Hopefully we'll be able to save the second half. Now people are talking about birds.
More about your chicken experiences. I've had chickens since I was 9 years old.
That was a lot.
I did a research project because I was homeschooled. This is going to be the most homeschool thing I'm ever going to say. Things about homeschoolers are not
Can't
usually
wait.
true, but in this case they are. My mom said they really wanted eggs and they didn't really want to care for them. And so they let me do the research project, which meant that my dad essentially gave me a card and let me order a bunch of chickens from a hatchery.
A bunch of chicks.
Like the day-old chicks. But I didn't get them from the feed store because we didn't have a feed store around at that area. I also didn't like the idea of buying chickens from a feed store at that time because I was 9. I really wanted to get them from a hatchery. But then it became an obsession of mine. I think at one point we had like 30 or 40. But they were small. They were little bantams. I had some big size ones.
That's more eggs than you could ever eat.
There were we found a hen one time and she was sitting on like 4 dozen eggs. It was
Yeah.
bigger than her. It was like a volcano. I did breed them. I had Silkies and Polish that were my favorite. They all had names. Actually, every single one of them
They all
had
had
names.
names. One time we rescued a meat chicken from her neighbor.
We did Lucy. So
She was so bad.
and she lived a good life. So she was actually a broiler.
She was like the size of 4 of Bailey's chickens.
She was a meat chicken. My neighbors raised chickens for 4-H or FFA, one of the two. Raccoons got in there and they were like, well, we don't really care about any of the others. There's like chicken parts everywhere. It was awful.
really bad.
It was rough. And so our chickens were kind of free range at the time. I have a lot of things to explain about my neighborhood, but we had property. And so they were kind of free range, minus they would go in a shed at night. And then I went out one morning and there was like this random meat chicken towering over all of our little ones. And I was like, okay.
Hello.
So when I asked my neighbors if they wanted her back, and they said, no, you can have her. I was like, oh, another mouth to feed, another beak to feed.
Well, that's weird.
And she lived a very good life and then died in her sleep. She lived a much longer life than most meat chickens do.
Yes, that's true.
I think she was like 4, which is very long compared. And she was cool. I think eventually they all died off after time. I've been wanting to get more at the house because I love them. They're just fun. I'll hang out with them all day.
So.
I like them.
I know.
They're just fun little critters. I like them more than I think I probably like dogs or cats.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. Lots of things have been learned today. Don't need it. I can't count to 24.
I'm not super friendly with my chickens. They're just.
I put one on her head one time. She got really mad when we were
Yeah.
kids.
Well, we only have a minute and a half left before
Oh.
it's gonna cut us off.
Okay.
So
Love you guys. Thank you.
yeah, we're gonna put this on the website. So if you only caught part of it, or if you want to watch it again later, whatever you want,
I'll share the link in a little bit.
it'll be up there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Yeah, there we go.